I do want to add that we will be posting all the PowerPoints on the website after this conference, and also we are shooting video. So all these will be on video. So if you don't want to take too many notes, you'll be okay. All right. Well, you wanted a workshop, so you're going to get one for the next hour because we got a lot of information to convey about digital marketing. So some things you'll learn from our presentation will be how traditional media usage is fading in smaller communities, and that's, kind of obvious, but we're going to go in a little bit more detail where things are at. Online media use by generation, so what channels are important to younger generations, and how can you connect with them? And then the fundamentals of online advertising, and that's where Fred's going to really focus a lot on that today, and really kind of a how-to kind of workshop format. So, the landscape right now with digital media, there's a lot to it. You look at the infographic up on the screen here, and it's going to get bigger and bigger. Actually, we could do about 18 infographics right now on digital media. But everything from SEM, which stands for search engine marketing, and then you hear the other term PPC, which is pay per click marketing. People get confused by those two alone. How you mix that with SEO and everything else that you're doing offline is really what we want to talk about today. So before I go into media use by generation, just one thing I want to emphasize is, we all have shrinking populations in rural areas for the most part, and especially shrinking populations in terms of young people. So that's a real challenge for sustainability of healthcare in rural areas. And we all know, everyone in this room that runs a community hospital, we know how important it is to keep hospitals open. Oftentimes, hospitals are the #1 employer in the actual town, and if those hospitals close, it's really not a good thing for the hospitals and everyone in this room. So how do we solve that problem? Well, we have to be proactive. We've got to connect with younger patients earlier in their lives before they form their relationships, and you can win this game. So when you look at analyzing media use by generation, you'll see Bill Clinton and Oprah up there. We actually segment baby boomers in two different halves. Baby boomers, traditional ones, were born 1946 to 1954. They came of age in the 60s and the 70s, and their current population is about 33 million. Their primary sources of information are newspaper, television, and magazines. Not that they don't use the internet, but that's their core. If you look at the second half, called Generation Jones, which is Baby Boomers 2, which I'm just barely a member of. We came of age 73 through 83, and our population is 49 million strong in the United States. So their primary sources of information are television, newspaper, magazines, and then they've adopted the internet as one of their information sources. So one of their sources, not the only source. So that's a key point. Generation X, born 1966 through 76. They came of age in the 80s and the early 90s. They're really the best educated of all the generations. Actually, 29% across the nation have at least a bachelor's degree or higher. They came of age with cable TV, of course, saw the rise of the internet, and their primary source of information kind of starts with television and then the internet, and then they'll rely on print resources. It's interesting to note how small the population Generation X is compared. If you looked at those other two totals for baby boomers, how large that is. There's not enough Gen Xers, and all you Gen Xers are in the crowd out there. You're going to be really running the show soon after all us baby boomers retire, and there's not enough of you. So what's going to happen? Well, we got to get a lot of this generation. We got to figure these guys out right here. So how many articles have you read about Gen Y and millennials in the last 6 months? Has anybody read at least one? Can I have a show of hands? Because I know I've read a gazillion of them. They're not that hard to figure out. We employ a lot of them now. All of us in the room do. There's some in this room. They're great people, and they're very, very effective at what they do. But we have to realize how to motivate them and how to get them to connect with our hospitals and physician practices. They were born 1977 through 1994. They came of age in the late 90s through 2006. Their current population is 71 million. So interesting is that they didn't triple the baby boomers. okay, like you would think they would have, or doubled. That shows that baby boomers on average did not have 3 kids or 2 kids. Basically, they just reproduced themselves because these are their kids primarily. So highly segmented due to the rapid expansion of cable TV, radio, internet. I mean, they kind of use it all. They're less brand loyal. We've probably heard that than their past generations. They're more flexible in attitude, though. So they're not as loyal, but they're at the same time their minds are more changeable. And their primary source of information is social media, internet, then television. And they will tap into print, but very, very few options. Generation Z. So these are our babies. So they will never have known a world without smartphones or mobile internet. Think about that for a minute. They'll never use a Yellow Pages directory. They'll never purchase tangible copies of media because they really won't have to. A lot of it will be gone by then. The internet will be seen as the source of everything, which we're almost already there. I've got a 8-year-old daughter, so I'm seeing that. What the spread of my kids is interesting. I've got a 20-year-old daughter, a 15-year-old daughter, and an almost 9-year-old daughter. And we just went to Disney, so that was nuts. But keep everybody happy. It's kind of interesting. But that older daughter, her media use is just a little bit different than that 8-year-old. You can see the tendency to just go all digital with the younger daughter. So they can acquire almost anything instantaneously. They're used to that. Brand loyalty is going to shift continually with that group, and their primary source of information is, we don't know for sure at this point. It could really change. The key thing here is future generations will always be connected. And it's not just young people that we see standing around at conferences like this. We know we all do it. We've all got to keep our heads up, right? We've got a real health problem with that little head bend. So that can be a part of the Kish Wellness Program too, is a head bend problem. So it's creating a media landscape that's really changing quickly. And we've got to adjust to it. Now, I know this slide's a little bit complex, but the demographics do differ by location. And you'll see that last set of data is large city. And we do have some handouts, by the way. I don't know if those have been handed out yet. Austin, if you can get those out, go ahead and hand those out. We'll help you read some of these graphs. Large city, you have 43% of the population in large cities right now at Gen Y. Okay, and then if you look over at rural, see how all mixed it up is and how flat it is? So you've got only 23% of the populations in rural as Gen Y, and then small town or cities, it's a little higher at 31%. Suburbs, very mixed. But there's that, everybody's heard about the urbanization of America. Well, it's massive, and we've got to see if we can figure this out. And this talk will give you some of the tools to be able to reach those targeted demographics of those younger folks in your service areas. So a little bit more about traditional media is declining. I'll go over this quickly. In 2002, there were 54,000 newspaper editor jobs. So now we're down to 38,000 in 2012, and these are nationwide stats. Between 2007 and 2010, we had 13,500 newspaper journalists that lost their jobs. Newspapers make $40 billion less in ad revenue today than in 2000. And the number of magazine jobs has decreased by 26% in the past decade. So where's all that money gone? Well, there's a reason why Google's stock is as high as it is. They basically removed the income out of the Yellow Pages industry, and they removed a tremendous amount of income out of the newspaper industry, and a little bit out of the magazine industry, and a little bit out of radio, and a little bit out of TV. I mean, they've really drained a lot of those funds and rechanneled them to the internet. So people just got to go work for Google. And they do employ a lot of people. So this next slide will show you that. Is look at the complete inverse curve of Google's annual advertising revenue versus newspaper advertising revenue, and you know where it's going. So we've got to be careful of overly relying on our local newspapers and believing that running ads in the local papers is going to reach everyone. We have a lot of hospital clients that we're still working with to get them to understand that more and more digital is the where to go. We have some non-healthcare clients we work with that are 95% digital in their strategies now, and they're seeing their numbers soar. So it's just getting to understand that and using a mix that's balanced for your community's demographics. Television's not immune, but it's flat. If you read Adweek, if you ever pick up a copy of Adweek or just go online, you'll see a lot of studies on this, is that there's more programming available now than ever before. We can all download lots of media. There's more shows being put out by more folks, like Netflix is doing their own shows. The change is that local news coverage is really suffering. That's the big change, and that's what we've been used to as marketers, is to run our spots on news, run our spots on the radio, run our spots on TV news. Well, that viewership, you can just ask the average millennial, did you watch the late news last night? What? They don't watch late news. They have no purpose for it. Unless there's one in the room that you say I'm wrong, okay? Raise your hand real quick and jump up and prove me wrong, but watching TV news is not something they do. And listening to morning drive time news is very rare too on radio. So it's just something to really think about and challenge yourself about. So the balance is shifting really digitally. And when you look at these numbers here up on the screen, you'll see how digital is growing. TV's flat. Radio came down hard years and years ago, and then it's leveled off, and then print continues to decline. So, we're starting to see kind of things settle in a little bit, too, with the shift in advertising dollars. Some other interesting points. Digital media expanse. In 2012, BuzzFeed. Anybody here use BuzzFeed? That's awesome. You can get almost everything from it. They employed 6 editorial people in 2012. Now they're up to 170. So there's your shift. There's still jobs in media. They're just going to different places. Bleacher Report had no paid writers in 2011. Now they have 50. Business Insider announced the expansion of its staff by 33%. So the jobs are just shifting. That means we need to shift to these type of medias as well. And then mobile, of course, that's a no-brainer. We know that's a game changer. You have 65% of the people in the U.S. now who have some type of phone. They own a smartphone now, or a tablet, 34% with tablets. So now I'd like to turn it over to Fred. He's going to take you through various digital media channels that will allow you to affordably reach these younger customer sets within your rural and small community populations. Fred?
I have to put my timer down. With digital marketing, there is a temptation that with all these channels available, that you almost feel like you need to be everywhere. And it's, there's the old adage, if you try to do everything, you're not going to do any of it well. So what we're recommending and what we're going to talk about today are just a couple of core focuses that you can do. If you're not already doing them, it's a good idea to dive into these. And if you are, these are areas to focus. This is where you're going to reach your customers, and you're going to be able to probably connect with the most people, especially the younger generations. So if you notice here, and this is just, I love this slide for one reason, and this is, in marketing, you always see the buying funnel, and you have the old model here, which talked about, people became aware of your brand through radio and through outdoor and television advertising. They considered you maybe after they were receiving maybe a direct mail piece, they picked up a brochure. It was a very passive model on the role of the consumer up to a point. Media came to them. It's changed now. We are now very much an on-demand society. We go out and we find the information. When you want to look up information, it's a verb now. You Google it. You can go to Wikipedia. We take a much more active role in searching out everything, and that's where in the buying funnel it's changed. Maybe awareness now comes from just casual searches or reading blogs or even social buzz. Consideration can come through your own online research and user reviews, something that wasn't available 20-some years ago to the masses. Your preference, what are your friends using? What are your peers using? Social networks are a good source of that. And then what the action state, It used to be that you'd have to call for an appointment. Now it's directed to a website. Your various organizations' websites become your digital portal. So, how do you? A couple of benefits of this type of marketing. You've got almost 12 billion searches are conducted a month on Google, and these are all no-brainers. You've got 1.17 billion unique searchers hitting Google each month. I would question anyone in the room to raise their hand that they have not conducted a Google search in the last 30 days. And that's what I thought. And again, what we mentioned about mobile makes that even more so. That accelerates that because now we're carrying the internet with us at all times. If you think about it, you're waiting in a waiting room somewhere, or anytime you have time to kill, there's that temptation to reach in and pull out the smartphone, and whether you're hitting Facebook or Google or any of the apps that you use for news, it's always with us. Another benefit of search engine marketing, and this ties really into the mobile component, you can target specific regions. You can target people in a specific area if you want to focus, rather than just doing a broadcast coverage of an area. When you're advertising on a television station, you get their entire broadcast area, whether or not it's relevant to your specific customer base or not. If you're on the edge of a broadcast area, you're wasting some of those dollars. Search engine marketing, a lot of online marketing, you can target some specific locations, or on mobile advertising, you can target people whose GPS is pinging in a specific region. And again, the other benefit is you can reach potential patients and clients when they're looking for information, because now we are actively searching for everything. Google search interest near me has expanded 34 times since 2011. You can thank your mobile phones for this. You can really thank your mobile for this, is that now people have become so comfortable with search. It's no longer that they're searching, doctor's office and then Pekin, Illinois. They're searching doctor's office near me. I want the closest one to my current location. I don't just want the ones in my area. So let's talk a little bit about going straight to search engine marketing. You see here, yes, there's multiple channels you can use for search engine marketing. The old adage of be where your customers are is very true here. Google is still the giant gorilla in the room. They usually, it's anywhere between 65 and 70% of all searches each month are conducted on Google. This is just an example of a typical Google search results page. You guys have all seen this before. You've got your location ads, your locations that are coming up here. You've got your paid ads at the top. You've got your map results. And you've got, again, more ads off to the side. Anybody that's conducting a search, and this was just sitting in my office in Pekin, Illinois, typing find a doctor near me, coincidentally enough. And this is the top of the search results page. If this is what I'm getting, this is what most consumers are seeing. And then these are the types of ads they'll see. Search and display. Again, these are probably very familiar to all of you. Display ads are, your typical billboard, strong positive image. They come in, multiple sizes. Search ads, you'll either get them on the side or you'll get them at the top. Search ads are not written like a typical ad. You are limited to 25 characters and then 35 and 35. That's not a lot of room to get your message out. So you have to focus your message in there. You're going to cut it down to some core keywords for your header, a call to action, and then again, more keywords there. And that's all that you have to reach someone. The advantage is that this ad is typically only shown to people who are searching for those terms. You're already hitting them down the buying funnel. Behind the scenes view of the Google dashboard. And the reason we included this is one of the benefits of search marketing over traditional marketing is you have access to your results. You can see, and if I can get the laser to hit it, all the way over here, you have a couple of interesting stats. You can see the number of times the ad was clicked. It's an instant level of accountability. So if you're running several campaigns, you can come back and you can look, well, this one's not performing. Why? Okay. Or if it's not performing, I'll pause that. I'll favor my budget towards something that is performing. If you have a much greater level of control on your ad results now, and you can really get under the hood and fine-tune your campaigns. So how do you set up a Google campaign? I will promise you it will not bore you and go through every single one of these in great detail. Basically, first step, obviously, you have to have a Google AdWords account. Very simple to set up. Most people actually have them. I would recommend not using a personal account. Always set it up for your organization. If you don't already, set it up with an email that is only used for that organization. That way it's not tied to someone if you have staff changes and suddenly you can't get into it. You always set up your funding source and your billing options with Google. And then you get into determining your campaign type. And there are multiple types. There are search campaigns, like we saw the small text ads before. This is when someone is actively looking for a term. These are what are going to appear in that top and that side. Display campaigns, more of your traditional billboard image type of things. Again, it's a clickable link. It gives you a little more control as far as what you want to say in that image, whereas a search ad, again, 25 characters, 35, 35. So you're writing the keywords with those. The last one is called remarketing. Remarketing is something that Google and a lot of search platforms will do. It allows you to embed a small pixel of code in your website. Someone comes to your website, this code is picked up by their browsers, and basically it's now that person is going to be, since they visited your site, it doesn't matter if they're searching for content relevant to you or not anymore, because they've already been picked up by that, now they're more likely to see your ads. This is the search engine's way of assuming, oh, this person is interested in chronic back pain treatment, for example. So they might be now searching for sports scores, but we're going to make certain that they're still seeing ads relevant to previous searches. So it's just a way to further connect.
And I'm going to add one more point. Anybody looked at a hotel before, not booked with the hotel, and see ads from them constantly over the next 5 days? That's remarketing. The travel industry almost invented digital marketing. They were way ahead of everybody. So that's how that works. So they keep saying, come back, please, come back, book. And so we do use a lot of those kind of techniques with physician marketing and hospital marketing and service marketing the same way. So just get people to remind you to come back and take action.
So, like, I know Zappos is a huge one for remarketing.
Yeah.
And to me, at a point, it gets annoying.
Yep.
But I would say I'm not, the typical person in marketing. How long do you think before those ads get stale? Like, how long before a consumer sees that redirect of the provider ad before they say, like, okay, this is annoying?
Well, what's nice is that we've always tried to guess how we should refresh our ads in radio, TV, newspaper. You don't have to guess with it. You have reports, you can look at all the data, and when the effectiveness of that campaign, the click-through rates in that campaign go down, then you need to refresh the ad. So there's no guessing. Absolutely zero guesswork with digital marketing.
The other thing, too, is people tend to filter results.
Sure.
So if, okay, so you've been to, like, and I'll use back pain to keep it as a hospital, as a medical reference. Or actually, I'll do one better. How many of you have been on Amazon.com to look for a product, and then you go to Facebook, and they are the biggest culprits for this, because Facebook puts this little ad right over in the sidebar that says, are you still interested? Are you going to, or the one that gets me is don't miss out. eBay is another one that does it too. If I'm not interested in it, I notice, and this is true of a lot of consumers, you just tend to filter it. Now suddenly when you're thinking about it, that's when you notice it. It's the old adage of you don't notice something, but once you notice it, now you see it everywhere. So it's kind of that. Still, you don't want to leave an ad running ad infinitum. You really want to I would say at least quarterly, refresh out your content. Sometimes you can go sooner, sometimes you can go much later. It's going to depend on your results, but at least give it a consideration or give it a review on a quarter.
Especially when you're just promoting general services that never end, versus an event or something like that that is time.
But once you've basically gone through campaign types, so again, you don't have to do all three. These are the three that are probably going to give you the best reach for your dollars. Then this is when you can come down, okay, so I've determined, I've got my account set up, I've got my funding, I'm now talking about this is the type of campaign I'm going to run. Then this is when you pick your targeting. The biggest one is going to be geographic. And there is a tendency in a lot of search campaigns, I'm going to put a pinpoint in my location, and then I'm just going to draw a nice radius around it, and I'm going to leave it at that. And that is a very easy way to do it. I would actually recommend against that. What you can do is you can still start, draw your pinpoint, set your radius, but Google allows you especially to go in and look at the areas inside that. So instead of just leaving it as a radius, then what you can go do is I'm going to pick the counties that are in there. Because you may have a county that's just cutting the edge of your radius and you don't want to cover the whole thing, so omit that one. Or you can pick, once you do the counties, then you can pick cities. And the reason why you do this is later on, Google allows you to go back into your campaigns once they're running, and you can make adjustments to your campaign. You can set a priority. When you look at, I'm getting more clicks out of Mason County than I am out of Fulton County, for example. I'm going to prioritize my ads for Fulton County. I'm going to decrease my emphasis on Mason. It's just another way to keep your budget smart. So, and then lastly, the thing you can do is you can also choose scheduling. If you're advertising a service that people are not going to be using, you don't think your audience is going to be actively searching from like midnight to 6 a.m., save your budget. Turn your ads off for that period. It's just another way to kind of stretch things out a little more. Again, this is just more on campaign setup, and I'm going to skip through some of this because some of this can get a little detailed, but once you have your once you know basically the type of campaign you're doing, once you know where you're going to be doing it, you pick your products or your services that you want to advertise. And this is when you start to get into the real detailed part. You want to know what the landing page, because every ad has to go somewhere. So you want to take a look at where you're sending those people. You'll conduct keyword research. You want to look at the copy of your landing page. You want to make certain that the keywords that you're going to be bidding, that you're going to be trying to target your ads to are relevant to that page. So in many ways, you'll write your ads based on the page you're sending them to. And then also conduct some competitor analysis. Kind of look around and see what your competition is advertising. If you're in an area where there's another hospital or another healthcare provider that's similar to you, and pretty much they're going to be bidding on some of this as well. So kind of look at what they're doing and incorporate that in. And then lastly, you'll design and write your ads. The thing about a Google campaign and any digital campaign is it is not fire and forget. The temptation is, okay, I'm on Google. I got my ads. I got them all set up. I threw them up there, and I'm good. And then people are just going to come beating down your door, and that's not necessarily the case. Think of this like an engine. So about once a month or even more often, you want to go back in and look at how things are performing. You saw the slide earlier where I showed just kind of what the Google dashboard looks like, and it's showing you results. Google also gives you something called Google Opportunities, because Google is a business. And ultimately, Google wants to make their consumer base happy, and they want the information that their consumer base is looking for to be relevant. So as a result, Google's going to make suggestions to you as an advertiser for things that you could do to improve your campaigns. This is part of what they do. It's a free, you don't pay anything extra for it. It's part of being a Google advertiser. So it's like getting free help from them. Now granted, the first thing they're going to tell you is, you should probably increase your spend. And that's just true of anything. They want more money coming in, but they'll also make suggestions on keywords. They'll tell you if certain campaigns are underperforming or, and things of that nature. So it's always a good idea to pay attention to that right off the bat. Another thing is you'll go through and you'll look at your keyword data. In a Google campaign, when you have an ad running, you have a set of keywords that go with it. These are basically the search terms that are going to trigger those ads. And so the temptation is, you know what, I'm going to bid on back pain, so I am going to throw every keyword possible related to back pain behind this ad. People are going to bid on that. After about 30 days or 60 days, you're going to notice certain terms you're not getting any traffic out of. Turn them off. Turn them off. Focus on what's actually working for you. We recommend doing this on about to look at about a 30 to 90 day range, because you might get some seasonality in there. So, for example, if I'm looking at performance for May, I'm going to go all the way back to February and look at what worked, what didn't, and that's how you know how to make adjustments. The big thing is, too, if you've got anything that's not performing, like I said, shut it off or pause it. There's no sense in spending money on, and the nice thing about searching Google advertising is you can choose to spend money on what's working, and you can choose to turn off what's not. The next thing I want to talk about a little bit is just online video. How many people here have watched a YouTube video in the last 30 days? Out of curiosity, how many have watched it on mobile? That's what I thought. YouTube has replaced TV for millennials and Generation Z. Hasn't quite replaced it for my generation. I'm a Gen Xer, so. The interesting thing about Google is YouTube, which is owned by Google, and we'll get to that. It is the second largest search engine in the US. More people will now go to look for things on YouTube than they will on Bing, Yahoo, Ask. And the interesting thing is nearly 50% of all internet users are on YouTube. I have an 84-year-old mother who was a technological Luddite until last year. She discovered YouTube over Christmas and now is constantly on YouTube for everything. This is an example of, I did a quick search for gallbladder symptoms, and this is just an example of what a YouTube search result page is going to look like. And you see there's different types of things. Here's, what is a gallbladder attack? Here's a gallbladder relief remedy that's probably by someone that's selling something based on the account name there. Here's someone on symptoms. And lastly, here's a healthcare system, Howard County General Hospital, on gallstones and gallbladder. So you can see there's a diversity of content out there. One of the best ways to use YouTube is to do short informational videos. This was an example of one. This was gallbladder symptoms. It's by a doctor. He's created his own YouTube channel, free to create. And he's also got 2,000 some subscribers to his channel. 4-minute video. He got 200,000 views on it, and the beauty of it is, so he produces this video one time. He puts it up on YouTube, and it remains there. It's not going to come down unless he pulls it down, which means future searchers can still find it. Someone 6 months, a year after he posted it, can still find it. This was another example. Another way you can use it is to promote core services. I found this to be an interesting video. This was for potential patients of John Hunter Children's Hospital. It's a 7-minute video, over 300,000 views. What I liked about this is when you have a YouTube video, obviously you have your video, you have your title, and you always want your titles to be descriptive, because remember, people are searching. So don't just have, hospital visit. This was my trip to surgery, John Hunter Children's Hospital. They're keeping it relevant. This is down here, they put a little bit of descriptive text. This is also crawled by YouTube search engine. And right here, they put a URL in it. So now this video is a chance to take a consumer who searched for it and found it on YouTube and direct them back to the hospital's website. And the benefit of YouTube being owned by Google is that it will help your organic search results. This is a search for John Hunter Children's Hospital, and lo and behold, there's our video. It's right there. It's above the fold in the search results. So YouTube becomes another way. It enhances your reputation as an information source, and it can only help your organic search results. 67% of millennials, you gotta love these guys, agree that they can find a video on anything on YouTube. I used it recently to change the innards of a plumbing fixture in our house, because when we bought our house, apparently the previous owner decided to go all crazy water efficient, and I had never seen a contraption like this before. 5-minute search on YouTube, my smartphone sitting on the counter next to me, and I was able to swap it out. This is becoming more and more prevalent. We are a society where we want our information, we want it now. Again, benefits of online video, and we've been talking about this. Interesting thing though, here I like, video results appear in 70% of all. That is actually supposed to be Google searches, so somebody caught me on a typo there. And you've all seen this. You go on Google, and there's a video that pops up right there. Especially if you're on a mobile device, you can click and play it very easily. Also, 63% of all millennials believe that television carries too many ads. I'm not even a millennial, and I agree with that. The average length of a television program has shrunk significantly over the decades, whereas in this case, you can put a YouTube video up, and it's now going to serve as that informational source. Also, you can pay to have your videos show up as relevant ads. And we've all seen this. You go on YouTube, you start to conduct a search, you get that little, your video will begin in 5 minutes or 5 seconds, and you have that option to skip. There's no harm, no foul if someone clicks skip. But if your content's good and relevant, and it's going to be, and the ads are typically, unless they're mass market ads, are going to be tied to your search, you found that you've ended up watching them. So that's how I picked basically a microwave recently, was because of a YouTube ad. Establishing a presence on YouTube is really simple. It's a Google product. So you create your channel. I recommend using a descriptive name. The one video it was a doctor's name as part of it. John Hunter Children's Hospital. You want to have something that people can search and they'll recognize right away as being your brand. When you load your video, and I have a slide that talks about this, you want to use key search terms in the title. You want to title your video, and it sounds like a no-brainer, but I've seen videos where the title has nothing to do with the content. Make certain your content, think about the person who is going to be searching for this video, and write your title to kind of target what they're looking for. YouTube also allows you to apply tags to your videos, and I'll show you an example of this. A lot of people skip this. Take time. They make suggestions to you about these tags. These tags are basically looking for relevant search terms, and they will ping back and they'll help you in your results. And then always, always include a URL in the description. It's nice if you have a great YouTube video. It's great if people watch it on YouTube, but if you do not offer them a path to come back to your website or to a path to convert, then it's only half effective. This was an example of a nicely branded YouTube channel I found. This is for OSF St. Francis in Peoria. Again, when you're creating one of these, just create a nice welcoming or positive image. I don't know if I would have gone with doors, but and then just immediately they set up some playlists. They've got all sorts of things that are up here. It basically makes it an inviting channel. If someone's not, and the reason why you set up this aspect of it, someone finds your video on a search, next thing you know, they go and they watch the rest of the videos on the channel if they like it. And they have the chance to subscribe. I mentioned before about setting up a video. Don't judge me, this is a cat video. This was an example of my smallest cat that we have at home, and I wanted to put a video up of her playing with her Star Wars toys from Petco. So when I went to set it up, cat's name, I threw Star Wars in there, cat toys, and I threw in the brand name of where I got it. Again, it's fairly descriptive, but it's when you come down here, here's the description field, and I kind of fudged a little of this out for the presentation. I threw it a direct link to where you could buy this particular toy. But these are the tags that Google and YouTube suggest. They started off and they threw mobile. They threw in Star Wars film series. They threw in cat video, but they threw in Petco. They threw in cat toys. They threw in interest. So somebody that's not searching for cat, toy, or Petco might look up a video of her kitty, and they can still stumble across this. So they might stumble across it through just looking at looking for Star Wars items. The idea is it's another way to reach consumers. And again, it's my cat, and my girlfriend is very happy I did this. YouTube reaches more 18 to 49-year-olds than any cable network in the U.S. There has been a tendency, especially to target millennials, that you're seeing more and more YouTube channels that are emerging. Things like Geek and Sundry is a great example. It's a YouTube channel. They produce television-style programs, but they're only on YouTube. There's no broadcast feeds behind it. And I have a lot of friends who watch one on there that shows them how to play board games. But the idea is, it's not anywhere but YouTube. So it just shows how the younger and younger generations are shifting more to this digital content network and away more and more from broadcast. All right, social media. And we've all heard this. We live in a social world. We overshare. Everything is like and share. And what are my friends doing? And you can overload on it. And you can see there are a metric ton of channels, including Google+, which is soon to go away. The one that I would say you want to focus on, Facebook. There's a reason. I mean, ComScore released a stat recently that said 10% of all internet time, over 10%, is spent on Facebook. Again, to use my 84-year-old mother as an example, made the mistake of hooking up her tablet to Facebook, and now she likes everything I do. But you can just see, I mean, Facebook year after year is just outpacing. LinkedIn, granted, it's for business. Pinterest is growing. Instagram, I don't know what I see for the future of that. And then Twitter, really be where your customers are. Facebook's one to focus on. Facebook actually has a very good ad platform. These are just two ads that I pulled from Pekin Hospital. Again, if you notice on a Facebook ad, they invite interaction. They have a strong image. You have a chance to put a message in. They contain your URL. They have a call to action. But the interesting thing about it is you can do two things with a Facebook ad. One, every ad carries this button that says, like your page. The tendency is people think, I'm going to create a Facebook page for my organization, my practice, what have you, and then that's the only place I'm going to post my content. And, people are just going to come there. Well, that only reaches your followers. Facebook ads are fantastic because Facebook is the single largest collector of demographics I think the modern world has ever seen. Because people are voluntarily, every day, giving Facebook their likes, their interests, their locations, their hobbies, everything. And they allow advertisers to target based on all of that. But the other thing about Facebook is you have a chance to interact with customers in your ads. This is an ad for a nurse midwife at Pekin Hospital. It's had 27 likes, but it's had 4 comments. When's the last time you had an ad posted somewhere that you could begin to engage in a conversation with? Someone could ask a question on this ad, and you have the chance to respond to it. This one for primary care, 25 likes, 1 comment, and 1 share. So now it's been expanded to not just the people that you've targeted, perhaps, but the person who shared it, it's gone to their network. And so it'll reach beyond the people that you may have initially thought of.
That's a key point there. Get your employees, at least your marketing department, to share the ad. That's pretty simple. Probably not do that one was, probably marketing share their ad. But think of her circle of influence, so you're exposing all of them. But if you can just get your internal audience within your hospital to like your page, and I know that's weird to say, but it's true, not everybody likes the hospital page, and then share the ad, tremendous free exposure.
Or even beyond the ads, just share your content. You should be proud of the place that you work. I mean, I haven't seen anybody go, I work at McDaniels. And they kind of say, you should be proud of your company. And you want to share things your company's doing if they're exciting. So they don't have to share everything, but encourage your employees. Hey, we just posted a new video we did for a client recently. Toss it a share. Again, with Facebook, when you're going to create a campaign, you'll notice a lot of this is similar to Google. You'll define your target audience. You'll pick your geography. Facebook allows you to pick by age. You can actually narrow it down by age and by interests. They recommend up to 10. I've noticed if you go too far beyond 10, unless those interests are very aligned, and if they are, Facebook will suggest a category that covers all of those. If you kind of ignore them and you just say, well, I'm going to blanket everyone, it's not going to be considered as relevant. And Facebook still does. They've introduced a relevancy factor in the last year, and it actually does affect ad performance. The higher your relevancy factor is to your audience, and they base this on the number of people that click on it, the cheaper that ad is that you pay per each click on it. So the more reach you'll get with your budget. You'll set your daily budget, determine how much you want to spend per day. Facebook is very big on a per day basis. And then develop your creative content. Strong imagery. This cannot be emphasized enough. Facebook has instituted something called the 20% rule. And if you notice on those ads, we had large pictures and we have the text beneath. Do not make your Facebook pictures a billboard ad. Because if you try to cram too much text in there, they only want 20% of that total ad space to be filled with text. They give you a text field below. That's where you can put your marketing verbiage, your call to action, your welcoming of the customer. Just have your image be strong, have your image be relevant, and leave it at that. And then the last thing you can do with Facebook is once you've got all this set up, you've got your ads loaded, you can choose when you want to schedule your ad. You can set it as a run that maybe will go for a few months. You can set it down to the specific times of day you want it to run. Again, these are all ways. If you have this much okay, and you only have hours of the day, budget, they're going to really serve your ad incredibly concentrated faster and much smaller. Out, they're going to relax. And again, when you get behind the scenes on a Facebook campaign, this is kind of what you can see. And I don't have the full dash here. And a lot of this will look like Google. You can see when something's delivered, you can see the reach, you can see the frequency, how many clicks, click-through rate, that's all pretty standard. The thing that you can also see on Facebook, and I love this, you can see how many people liked your page as a result of an ad, how many people commented on it, how many people shared it. So it's a little different than Google in the fact that you have that increased interactivity. And again, these are the things that Facebook allows you to track. The benefits of using Facebook advertising is pretty straightforward. You can target, again, by specific interest, by location, and you can engage in discussion with your customers. And we have a slide that's going to touch on this later, an example of a Facebook ad where someone put it up and they forgot about it, and they missed opportunities because people were asking questions about this product. Again, this is an example we did for Pekin Hospital. This was a 2-week ad we did just for a fundraiser. Just with their targeting was fairly tight. I don't think it was over a 25-mile radius. It actually may have only been a 15-mile radius. It reached 29,000 Facebook users. And I don't have the stats down here, but it got a significant number of shares and comments on it. Again, people were interested, and they could ask questions here rather than having to call you on the phone. The other thing you can do on Facebook, and we talked about the posts on your page, you can actually, instead of an ad, you can take a post on your page. So something that you're posting just for your followers, you can turn it into a promoted post. And these are basically short 7-day micro campaigns. This is a great example of one. Reached just shy of 15,000 people. It was shared 158 times. So 158 people cared enough about this ad to say, you know what, I'm going to share it on my own feed. Got 23 comments. So again, if you're doing something in the short term, maybe you have a fundraiser or a screening event coming up, this is a great way to promote it. Make social media a priority in your organization. The tendency, and I like this cartoon because the tendency is okay, we've got social media, let's give it to the young intern. We'll let them manage it. We'll give them a little bit of direction, maybe. And the result of this is, wow, they've got 22,000 followers. That's great. What's the bad news? Well, their demographics are 11-year-old girls who like Justin Bieber. And here you've got the marketing director who's like, well, do you think they'll buy our product? Not so much. Really, anymore as Facebook has expanded and social media has expanded, it's gone beyond just the cool thing that kids are doing, and it's become the thing that everyone's doing. So this is really something that you want to make as a priority for your organization. I'm going to turn it back to Randy, who's going to close us out here and talk a little bit about the balancing act and give a few examples of kind of what not to do.
Thank you, Fred. So how do we balance all this? Well, we have to choose wisely, as this famous scene from Indiana Jones definitely defines. Is that if you're promoting events, fundraisers, open positions, the advantages of your smaller local hospital, your physician announcements, and your new technology, you're looking at all that what you're promoting. You need to devise your strategy around that. And you really need to promote all those type of activities on digital media. But you don't want to just fire and forget, like Fred said. You've got to monitor it. You've got to use the tools. If you don't have the time yourself, then have your marketing firm head this up if they have that capability. Marketing firms oftentimes have more time and dedicated individuals that do the continuous training that's necessary to understand how to use the Google tools as well as Facebook. You want to encourage your audience to engage as much as possible. Remember, social media is definitely different than traditional advertising. Now, here's an example. So this is a plastic surgery practice in Peoria that we actually do advertising work for. And this is interesting in a new relationship. So they had a different firm managing their social media. And that contract expired. I had suggested that we monitor their social media. They had not pulled the trigger on it at this moment. Okay, So we ran ads. That's our job. We put the ads up. Represents missed opportunities. We revisited this page and we found that there were 4 opportunities where people had posted from this ad and their marketing people internally had not responded. Ugh, right? Not our job to respond unless we're employed to respond. So then we quickly got in touch with them. We wrote some responses and say, please put these up. And she put them up, but very late. So we had 4 people. This is actually a weight loss product called Cool Sculpting, where they actually heat up the fat cells and they disappear. It's pretty cool. And they had someone say, I want this. Does insurance cover this? Does insurance cover this? Again, there's 2 in a row. Interested. Thanks for posting. So those are opportunities, but those people expect an answer within minutes.
And if I can interrupt for just a second, if you notice the dates on these, it might be hard to see. The first one's February 28th, no response. Then again, March 24th, so a month later, still no response.
Yeah.
And then lastly, May 1st. Like that's
Right.
way too long.
Yeah. So we definitely got their attention once we sent that to them. But that's just, that's not an isolated case. We see those once in a while. So, it's just so important for all of us as on the marketing teams that we represent, for our hospitals we represent, that we really check when we're posting or whether we're running paid ads. Either way, but really monitor your social media channels to make sure you see both the positive side and respond to it. And we also know that there are some negatives as well. We have to respond to them as well.